I've been
unmasked.
unmasked.
This has been very long awaited.
Yes.
How are you, Lori?
I'm good.
Yeah?
Yeah.
I'm excited to have you on. We've been trying to plan this for
I
what seems
know.
like forever now,
I
so I'm
know.
glad to finally have you on.
I know. I'm happy to be here.
Yes, awesome. So, we're just going to get right into things, get
Okay.
all down and dirty and stuff. So first, I want you to go ahead and, for those who don't know who you are, don't know what you do or anything, I want you to go ahead and introduce yourself, any accolades, accomplishments that you want to mention, just kind of giving people a short little summary of who Lori is.
Okay. My name is Lori Young, and I am a signed model with Signature Models and Talent. And I have transitioned into acting as of recently, and it's been such a cool experience
Yeah?
so far. Yeah. I love it.
Heck yeah. Okay, so model and actor.
Mhm.
Perfect. So, one of the biggest ways that I've seen to be able to kind of truly understand the person I'm sitting with and be able to understand the story and kind of just know who you are
Mm-hmm.
is by kind of understanding your past, because ultimately it is kind of the events of our past and the story of our past that turn us into who we are today. Whether we like it or not, we are the product of what we've grown into be.
Yes.
So with that being said, go ahead and kind of take us back however far back you are willing to go. I don't want to make you uncomfortable or anything, but major events that have happened or just specific things that you feel that have built you into who you are today.
In order to talk about today, I have to talk about my past. I was in a marriage previous to the healthy, happy one I'm into today, where I experienced narcissistic abuse. And it is bad. For anyone who doesn't know, they really mess with your whole mind. It's really tough. So there were, just to give you a little feel of what I experienced, some of the worst times was when I'd spill something on the floor, like juice. And he'd be like, call my mom, she'll know what to do. And I was like I wasn't capable of cleaning that up.
Really?
Yeah. He made me feel like I was no good for anybody, and I started to believe it. And also another thing was that there was a time where he wouldn't come home at night. And we had a baby, and I'd be like reading books on how to save our marriage, and the baby, my son Landon, would be in the crib and he wouldn't be coming home at night. And then he would come home and he would tell me, if you would just listen to me, then you would know where I was. You don't listen to me. Lori, just open your ears. Like all this stuff that made me question my sanity.
Yeah.
I started to question, like I asked my mom, I was like, Mom, when you tell me things, am I remembering? Like I thought I needed to be checked out. Like
really bad gaslighting, it sounds like.
Yes.
Gotcha. I've definitely dealt with my fair share of that for sure. There's so many times I remember with, and sorry, Mom, if you're listening to this, obviously there was a big chunk of my life that was spent with you, but I kind of had a similar thing with my mother, with how certain things would happen, or she would tell me certain things or something, and I would remember it in a very specific way. My memory worked in a very odd way to where it would relate back to very specific things around that time what happened. Therefore, I knew exactly verbatim what was said and at what time and stuff. And I literally, at a point, started to journal exactly like 11:07 p.m. She said this.
I journaled too.
Because of the fact that I knew
Yes.
that she'd be coming back. I'm like, I never said something like that. And I'm
Yes.
like, no, you said it right here.
But
like,
he burned mine.
Really?
Mm-hmm.
Oh my God.
Or took it somewhere. It was gone.
Really? Oh my gosh.
Mm-hmm. Because I was journaling.
Yeah.
Text messages and stuff like that. Because I knew this wasn't what marriage was.
Right.
Like, I grew up in a happy, healthy home, and my parents showed each other respect and love, and it wasn't like that.
So if you don't mind me asking then, was the marriage always like this, or was there a different man that you fell in love with originally?
I should have seen some red flags, and I'm sure there were some, but I was blinded by love. I adored him.
Had
like,
the
I was head over heels.
Rose-colored glasses
Yes.
on, as I've now been introduced to that saying.
Yes, and my like, there were times where he would flip out, but it wasn't towards me at that time. It wasn't towards me. It was towards other people, and I was the calming. So I thought we were going to be, like, I thought I was good for him.
Mm.
And when we were dating, he mumbled when he talked, and he just didn't have self-confidence, but he was gorgeous, and it didn't make sense to me. It did not. And so I came in all confident. I was a pitcher in college softball. And I came in, when I met him, I was like, if nothing else comes out of this relationship, I'm going to build you up. Like, I am going to build your confidence up. And, like, I'm all about building people up.
Right.
So I did that. I built him up, but he used it to beat me down.
Where was he at when you guys met?
He was at the community college.
Okay. So you kind of like used your status a little bit and like just your lifestyle to help build a foundation for him to build on?
Yeah, like, we started dating, but I noticed that he mumbled, and it was crazy because by the time I got out of that marriage, I mumbled when I talked, and I looked at the floor. Like, I had zero self-confidence. I couldn't look people in the eyes.
Wow.
Nothing. I was a shell of a human. So.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, no, I relate to that a lot. It took a long time for me to gain any type of self-confidence.
Mm-hmm.
I was the baby of the family,
Mm-hmm.
and because my brother and my mother's relationship was very confusing, but he was kind of seen as like the man of the house,
Mm-hmm.
and I was seen as the baby, and so I was treated as such, even
Okay.
if I couldn't. But then, as soon as tables started shifting a little bit, there was a specific incident, actually. I remember that it was from that point on is when the situation changed, and it was the moment that she realized that I was no longer a child type of deal. I was, and this is something I actually recently talked to my therapist about too, because I didn't make the connection, I didn't make the click until later on in life when this event happened, and I'm like, oh my God, that's when everything changed. That's when I was no longer looked at that certain
Wow. Okay.
way. So I definitely relate to that quite a bit,
Yeah.
for sure. But was there anything that drew you to him specifically?
No, he's just a really, really good-looking guy.
Yeah.
And yeah, I mean, everyone on my softball team thought he was really cute, and I was like, okay, I want to date him.
Yeah.
And he was from Minnesota, and I was from Iowa, and he worked for the Special Olympics. I thought he had a heart of gold. Like, on paper,
he was the one.
yeah,
He was Mr. Prince
looked
Charming.
really good. Yeah, he looked really good. But no.
So, at what point did everything start making this turn?
It was a lot of work on myself, because I left. So I was working at Bally Total Fitness at the time, and he came in, and this is probably like the 7th time he didn't come home in the same night, or in the same month. And my therapist, because we were going to counseling, and he said, if he doesn't come home again, you're free to leave. So it was almost like I had this approval,
Right.
you know, that I could go. And as soon as he didn't, because I had grown numb, and then as soon as he didn't, he came in to work out, and my boss said it looked like I had seen a ghost. I was very pale, but he had come in, and I knew it was my window to leave.
Yeah.
And so I went to my mother-in-law's, and I got my son, and I put him in the car, and I wrote my ex like a note and put it on the counter, and I told him that if, you know, he needs me, I'm going to be at my parents'. He knew where I was going, and I had my son, and I took him to Iowa, and from then on I was labeled as like kidnapping my son.
Wow.
Yeah. And it's been an uphill battle since.
Dang.
Yeah.
Okay. So a lot of stuff going on there.
Yeah.
So it was at that turning point then that you, at what point did you see that it was narcissistic abuse?
I didn't even know that word. I did not know that word, and I wish you know, in today's society, we hear that a lot.
Right.
We hear that a lot, and people can relate with that. But at that time, there wasn't a label for it. There wasn't a name for it.
Yeah.
It was just, I thought I was on an island by myself, didn't know what I was experiencing or anything. It was
So what was
crazy.
the mark of you being able to get out of something? Because I know plenty of women personally that have been in those situations, whether it be narcissistic, I can't even say that word,
It's a hard one.
narcissistic,
Yeah.
physical, verbal, any type of abuse,
Yeah.
but for whatever reason they can't get out. And it's definitely, it's one of the most difficult. Like, I've been in a fair share of highly abusive relationships myself.
Yeah.
And it's never as easy as just leave him or just leave her.
No.
Or you can do so much better. Like, I don't even know why you're still in it. Like, it's never that easy.
It isn't.
So for you, what was the turning point that gave you the confidence to be able to leave this situation?
I think honestly, my background really, like, having a dad that respected my mom and showed me that I knew how far my relationship was not like that and how unhealthy it was. And I didn't have much, like I said, much confidence at all.
Mm-hmm.
I really felt very unintelligent, no good for anything. But I took as little, mustered up as much self-worth as I had.
Yeah.
And I got my son in the car. I just needed to, even take a break. And I did tell him, that I was leaving, and I thought, maybe we would save our marriage. Like, he would come out or whatever, but instead he served me with temporary order for sole custody, took my son back to Arizona. It's been terrible. It's been terrible because I don't have that relationship that I should have with my son, because I had to give up the large majority of custody to get away from him.
Is that relationship, do you think, still affected today?
My son and I?
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, we only see each other every other weekend. Well, he's an amazing kid,
Mm-hmm.
and I've tried to keep the relationship as much as possible, but when he's 16, he's now 17.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. So when he was 16, he's doing what 16-year-olds do, and they distance themselves from parents.
Right.
They surround themselves with friends, and he goes to work, and all the things that a normal teenager does, But when you don't have him, then all of a sudden that like weekends, it's like I don't feel like I have to let him go and do his thing.
Right.
Yeah.
You can't. It's almost like you're trying to
It's so hard.
reverse time a little bit and get this time that you didn't have originally. And I feel like it's also very hard because I almost wonder what he thinks or what
I know.
he might tell his friends about, like,
I
hey,
know.
how's your relationship with your mom? Because I know what I was saying, like, about my relationships with my parents and stuff at that age.
Yeah.
I didn't have a relationship with my father. My father was out of my life pretty much after the age of 12. And at that point, I was saying stuff that, like, my mom told me. And my mom had very unfavorable opinions towards him. And so I would be saying that kind of stuff versus, like, what's actually going on. Like, they don't. And it's kind of sad the fact that he probably won't know exactly what's behind the curtain until he's old enough to reach out and be like, hey, I want to develop a relationship with you. Or, and you can only even hope that something like that
I
happens.
know.
I finally decided to pursue my own relationship with my parents in my own timing and stuff. And that's been able to remove any biased opinions towards one another because I was able to do that. But not everyone does that. A lot of people tend to just take it at what it's at and be like, yeah, my mom wasn't in my life for a while. And that's not to say you're a bad mom at all.
Yeah.
It's Lord only knows, if he even knows, why the custody happened the way it was, what kind of relationship you and his father had, and all that kind of stuff. Like, he only probably knows one side of the equation at this point. So that's
It's tough.
it's a diluted situation,
Mm-hmm.
and it's a very confusing situation.
One thing I did do just recently though is I contacted one of his friends' moms, like one of the only ones I know,
Mm-hmm.
and set up a surprise party for him at
Oh,
Top
wow.
Golf. He was shocked. Like, he was so confused why he thought he was going to go golfing with
Mhm.
me and Jonathan. And then all of a sudden his friends started walking up and he was like at first it was like, what are you doing here? Oh, you're here? And then they're like telling him that this is your party, and it was like one of the best moments ever. He was like, how do you know him? How does my mom know you?
Yeah, that's funny.
It was so
I feel like that'll
so
feed
cool.
that'll feed into the relationship in itself, though, because that'll
Yeah.
show, like, that you're giving effort to be able to do this, that you're not just trying to be an estranged parent.
I know. I love
And-
him so much.
Yeah, I can definitely tell that you do. It does make me wonder, though, like, having this, what was the distance between this abusive relationship and the current marriage that you're in now?
Okay. So I met after that I met a guy I did long distance relationship with in out of state. And it was perfect for me at that
Mhm.
time because I didn't want to be with anybody. I just wanted like the companionship and the emotional connection.
Right.
And so that was great for 3 years. But then I was like, okay, I want to see you. Like, where is this going? Are we
Right.
ever going to be together? And I couldn't leave because I had Landon and he never moved out. So I was like, okay. And then I met my husband because he was across the street. And then I was actually dating, don't judge, but 4 people at that time.
We've all been there.
And like I would go snowboarding with one, I would go to the movies with one, I would go to comedy clubs. Like everyone had something different
Yeah.
that I, like, but when I met him, he was like, "Are you dating anyone?" I said, "Yeah, I'm actually dating 4 people. You would be number 5."
Oh my god.
And he goes, "Oh, that's not going to work for me." And I was like, what are you going to do about it, you know? And he was like, we'll see, or, you know, and
Yeah.
then once we spent any time together, he checked like all my boxes. And I was just like, okay. So everyone else disappeared.
Yeah.
And it was all about him. And there was a time where he came over. He came over, but I was preparing for court because my life was court. It was always being drug into court, into parent coordinators, which was $2.75 an hour. Yeah. And so, and plus, even if I was growing on my own, like healing, as soon as I got back in the room with him, I'd
Kind of collapse back in.
revert. Yeah, back to my abused self. And so it was no good. Every time I walked into that room, I was losing more with Landon. So I was just like, so anyway, I was preparing for court and I was on the phone with my mom, and I have all these papers laid out, and we talked for hours because we're just like getting everything in order. And I came downstairs and he was still there. I thought he was long gone. But it was like he was taking it all in, what I was going through. And he always asked the deep questions. He did not take surface level. Like he would dig deeper and deeper. And I'm like, he like really wants to get to know me. He doesn't want surface level. Like he cares. And it set him so far apart from anybody.
Yeah.
I was crazy about him. So, yeah.
I imagine, though, because of this previous relationship, you probably had some major, like, blinders up towards men, especially. Some major, like, and then maybe that was why you were dating a few people at once, because of the fact of you had this wall built up and you weren't going to let anyone but the right person break that wall back down.
So true.
You were craving companionship because you didn't get it beforehand, and now it's like you're able to have fun with these guys and stuff, but it's still like your body or your subconscious mind is still like, hey, it's a dude.
Yeah.
You remember what happened last time? Be careful, type of thing. So I imagine that there was a lot of obstacles internally that you've had to jump through to be able to let yourself be as comfortable as you are with your husband, to let yourself, like, I imagine there was a lot of hurdles that he had to jump through to show your subconscious mind that he wasn't going to treat you like this previous partner did.
Yeah. He is such a calming guy. Like, from the get-go, he has just been a very solid guy in my life. And I think it helped. He was a police officer at the time, and so I think I felt safe. I felt safe. And also he just doesn't raise his voice. We talk about things. If we're upset, it's like quiet. You know, we get quiet, but we don't get angry at each other.
Right.
And so I know the difference. Like, what I have is healthy love. He's shown me healthy love.
That's good.
And over time, it's because of his healthy love that I've gotten back to where I am today.
And did it take a lot to find that? Like, a lot of time, a lot of patience, a lot of, like, because I know a lot of people, when they have dealt with relational abuse and stuff, they tend to hop around a lot with relationships and almost kind of give up at certain points because it's like, oh, there's no good people left and stuff. I've been there. So I imagine there was probably just a lot of subconscious confusion and stuff.
To be honest, he has never been a issue for me because he's been there to help me and through all of that. Like, he wanted to just be there for me. So it wasn't it wasn't that. It's just that my ex-mother-in-law literally went into court after, I think that you are someone I love and that you have my back and all the things, because I was an open book, right?
Yeah.
Like, I open heart. I had nothing holding me back from that relationship. So unfortunately, that has definitely affected my relationship with my current mother-in-law and sister-in-law,
Yeah.
because they are, for some, like, triggering.
Yeah.
And it's not they are amazing people. They are absolutely amazing people, but it's like just the role.
Right.
It's like I saw this one take my son. Like, that's your pride and joy. That's like all you have. And then I have a daughter, and it's just like when people get too close, it's like
it almost,
my heart. Yeah.
Yeah, it kind of gives you certain feelings just based off of what happened with Landon.
And I do not mean to, but
it's a
it
subconscious
can be
reaction.
very triggering.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So obviously you've grown a lot since this previous marriage of abuse and stuff, and you are a very different person. You have different outlooks on everything. If you were able to talk to Lori that was in the middle of all this still, that was gone back in time, and you're with this previous ex, you're not with him. You see Lori that's with him. What would you tell her to be able to help her cope with what she's going through, to be able to kind of maybe help her get out of the situation? Or, like, especially with knowing what you know today, knowing what you were going through back then, and everything that you were in the middle of, how would you help that young Lori out?
Oh, that's such a good question. I actually, unfortunately, have many friends who have experienced this. Like, I mean, it's crazy how many people have gone through this.
Absolutely.
Just in my circle. And so when you ask me that, I picture them, right?
Right.
And you can't tell them anything. I want to shake them and be like, wake up, like, you are so beautiful and valuable and intelligent, and any person would be so lucky to have you. And give yourself a chance, because, oh my goodness, God has something so much better for you. That's not what he has planned. Like, that's not it. There's something so much better.
How do you think you could reach into them to actually believe that? Because I know, obviously, you say that now, but it's so hard to believe that when you're in the situation, especially when the person that's closest to you is telling you the exact opposite, and you're believing that. Like, how do you think you could communicate that to yourself in a way that you would actually believe that?
I'd honestly tell them to pick something. Pick anything, that a goal of any sort, okay? Like, whether it be to run a half marathon or do a triathlon, or for me it was competing. I did fitness competing, and I was a bikini competitor, and I had no idea what that was before I did it. But this is after I was married and everything like that, but I've gone to therapy, and this was better than any therapy.
Yeah.
It made me so much more mentally strong than anything else. So I would tell somebody to pick a goal and start working on that. Just any kind of distraction. And because when you're, okay, let's say they choose competing, you have meals and water and workouts and all this stuff that helps to get your mind off things because you're always thinking of that next thing. And you get to choose yourself over and over and over and over. And I did it for 3 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And my first show, I showed up on stage, like that was the win. I got a medal on top of that, and I was like, oh my gosh, I placed. Like, that was the win, to get up on stage.
Yeah.
And then I did another show, and then I did one in my hometown in Iowa, and I was done.
Yeah.
I was done. Like, I had a great run. I was at the best shape I've ever been in. I was proud of myself. I got second. I was just like, okay, I'm done. Now I want to model.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I always wanted to see, way back before even Ryan, before him, I was modeling and acting, and then I lost it through him because he beat me down. I didn't believe in myself anymore. So to come back to this dream, like all these years later,
Yeah.
it just means so much to me that I've made it back there.
And how does your current spouse support you through this stuff?
I think it's different for him.
Yeah.
I mean, he had a wife that was in corporate America and worked 9 to 5 for 11 years. And when he came into my life, that's how he knew me. So he didn't know the girl that was going after modeling and acting. He didn't know this version, but we're getting through it. Like, the fact that I was able to quit my job a year and a half ago, and get an agent and figure it out. We're figuring it out together, like, as we go.
How did you go about that process of being able to quit your job and stuff? Is it because he's able to help support you in that?
Well, he has a job, and mine, okay, because of everything I told you with Landon and missing out on his life, I am absolutely not missing out on my daughter's life. Like,
Right.
I cannot.
Right.
I don't even think my heart can take it. I don't know what would happen. So, the fact that I was working and I was fine when I was in the building, but when COVID happened and we got sent home, then I pictured that I would be, vacuuming. There'd be lines in the carpet. I'd be making eggs. I'd be able to, do some dishes, and he'd be so proud of me because I was keeping the house clean. Like, I pictured that I could multitask. I'm home.
Yeah.
Right? But the truth was, my computer, I was so tied to that computer. It was such a heavy job. And I kept going. It was like ding, 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 ding. It was like I was a prisoner in my own home.
Yeah.
I did not do well with that, because then on break, I would run and get Addison at daycare. I'd not even take time to say, how was your day?
Yeah.
Like anything like that. It was like, Addison, hi, get in the car, we got to get back. and then after, I didn't know when to quit also, because I would take that last phone call.
Yeah.
And I'd be on way later, and it was taking time away from her. And she loves to sing and dance, and she is so full of life. And I kept being like, Addison, no, mommy's on the phone. Addison, no. It was not the message I wanted to send
Yeah.
to her.
Like
The
tearing her
most
down.
important is that you matter
Yeah.
more than anything, and I'll figure something else out. I can't do this anymore, so I quit.
Then that whole work from home thing, I feel like it was a very romanticized idea, and
Yeah.
it does work for some people. Don't get me wrong. I've met some people that it works just fine for. I was not one of them. I caught COVID. It was like right in the middle of like 2021, like towards the end of it.
Yeah.
It was unfortunately just after the time that they got rid of the mandate for companies to pay you for 2 weeks that you had it. So
Oh, okay.
I still had to, like, not only did I have to use PTO and stuff, because that was the most frustrating thing in the world, is like,
Yeah.
I'm using PTO because I'm sick and not allowed to come into the office. Go fuck yourself,
Right.
sincerely. So
Yeah.
that was a very frustrating thing, and then I also didn't have the best setup at home.
Yeah.
And then that I have always believed in, like, you have to have separation between your areas, or else your mind psychologically gets super confused with, like, okay, you're at home, now you're thinking about home life and stuff.
Yeah.
Being home 24/7, it got hard to get into the work mindset and be as productive as I could and stuff. Like, it's a
Yeah.
pain in the ass to get in my car and go to work, but at the same time, that's where that mind shift happens of productivity and being in that work mindset, and that's what I was lacking. And I know everyone's different. Some people, they can work from home no problem,
Yeah.
and I envy you for being able to do that, but it is just a horrible experience for me to do. I mean, I can do my own work at home, like if it's work with a podcast or work with
Yeah.
that kind of stuff, awesome. But if it's a 9 to 5 type of job,
Yeah.
no, you can count me out. I'd be there in my pajamas, the blanket on me, and my dog sitting. I could not focus on work at all. I'm like, I just want to go to sleep right now.
Oh, I know. It was tough. And my mom even was like, Lori, it's like you're in prison
Yeah.
in this room. And I'm like, yep. So like my whole spirit was just down, from doing that.
So, okay, so it was the relationship, and then I'm assuming the bodybuilding and stuff was between the marriages.
No, it was after I married Jonathan.
Oh, so after the new husband then.
Mm-hmm.
Okay,
And after Addison.
gotcha.
Yep.
And that's when you started doing all that. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
So bring us still from there to where we are today.
Okay, so after I competed and I got in the best shape of my life, well, that's a time where I'm going to feel most confident.
Mm-hmm.
I had always placed James Patrick on a pedestal as far as shooting with him, because he's done so many magazine covers. He has over 700 magazine covers to
Wow.
his credit. And then features. I mean, like, the guy knows how to get people published like no other. Okay. So I was like, oh, I'm not there. This is like the prior me talking. And anyway, so I did that, and he was having a conference, and it's now called Get Published Live. But at that time it was called Fitposium, and it's where you can get in front of like editors and just be in a room full of like-minded people, and it was just such an opportunity. So anyway, I had heard about the conference, but he put something up that said anyone who gets their ticket is in a drawing to get a free photo shoot with him.
Oh, wow.
That's like a couple grand.
Right.
So I'm like, yes, please. I will go ahead and put my name in the hat,
Yeah.
And I was listening because he was announcing them live, and he said Lori Young, and I about dropped the phone. Like, I was like, oh my gosh, you just said my name. Like, I just got so happy and excited, and I got to shoot with him, and those images were just incredible. Incredible. And so seeing myself in that light again, I was like, okay, I can model again. Then he asked me, why don't you upgrade your ticket and why aren't you upgrading your ticket for the conference? And I said, why? Like I'm just general. And he's like, well, then you can pitch to editors. And sometimes in life, it's just having someone else tell you that you can do it, that you're like, if you think I can, then I can, right? And that's the way with my competition coach. Like, he thought I could do it.
Yeah.
He worked with many people, thought I could do it, and I got there because he believed in me. And then I meet James, and he said, why don't you pitch to editors? And I was like, I have no idea how to pitch to editors. None. But okay. I'll do it.
Yeah.
So I did, and I ended up getting in Phoenix Magazine and Fitness Magazine the first year. And then the next year I went back, I was like, it was like Christmas Day. I couldn't wait for this conference, right? And now I know I can do it, and I'm gonna like, what else can I get?
Yeah.
So I get a cover, and I got a cover, and and I started writing for Scottsdale, Arizona, or Fabulous Arizona, because Cynthia Saucy, the owner of Fabulous Arizona, picked me to write for them.
Wow.
Again, somebody believing you can do it. So I started writing for them. And then, just like opportunities happen like this all the time. And then, so now I've built such a relationship with James out of respect for his work that now I'm his assistant.
Really?
Yeah, and I help with photo, like I do a photo assisting. I upload his podcast. I'm his, like, whenever he needs something, even if it's like to run a grocery for an event, or I'm his assistant.
I might have to have you be my assistant at some point.
So I do that, and I love it because it's all in, if I need to find like a hotel for a photo shoot for him or whatever, but it's all in my own time. That's the key. And so that's in my own time. And then I also work at an eye doctor who, he is just amazing to work with, because he told me, I was very upfront from the get-go that I'm modeling and acting. And I said, if you need me, like, to be here, if I get booked, I'm telling you I'm gone.
Yeah.
So I won't be here. So if that's a problem, like, then I'm not a fit.
Yeah.
Now I know. Like, I know what I want, and I know, like, does this fit into my life? It's a different feeling than trying to fit my goals into the nooks and crannies of every, like, corporate America.
It's a very difficult thing, though, to be able to have the mindset to be able to make those decisions. I know it's been incredibly difficult for me with, especially when you are on your own, you're paying all your own bills and stuff. A lot of times you don't have the flexibility to be able to tell an employer, like, hey, by the way, I'm in the middle of chasing my passions right now. So unfortunately, if I get a call, I'm not going to be here. Because a lot of them are like, well, I have 6 other people that are wanting the job even more than you.
Oh,
so
I 100% know how lucky I am.
Yeah.
Like, that was absolutely another God thing.
Which, it's honestly, though, a ridiculous thing, because I say that, but I'm also like, if I'm here, though, you have my attention. I'm not going to be gone 6 out of 7 days of the week. It's just, if the opportunity presents itself and my agent just say, hey, you have a commercial audition right now, we can even work. Like, that was one of the reasons why the old coffee shop that I worked at, I loved that, because they were understanding enough to where I would say, hey, my agent just sent me an audition. I have to leave from 10 a.m. to 11 a.m. And then I'll be back. And they're like, cool, awesome, we'll cover for you then. Or being able to have some sort of thing like that. And so I think that's one of the hardest that's one of the biggest obstacles that stops people from being able to, like, pursue what they want. Because, like, my agent at first almost didn't sign me because of the fact that I was in corporate America. And the flexibility that you have none. They want you to dedicate your entire life
100%.
to whatever it is that they're doing. It's not meant, like, I know that there's a whole saying, like, your 9 to 5 pays the bills, your 5 to 9 feels this. It's like, well, a lot of times it's not just 5 to 9 that you have to work. Sometimes, like, there's some stuff during the day, and I need the flexibility to be able to take off from this 9 to 5. And it's just so frustrating with the way that work is these days.
Yeah.
Like, the lack of flexibility that employers have with being able to have, like, they want those people that aren't passionate about other things other than the job. And it's like, yeah, I'm definitely passionate about working behind a computer for 8 hours a day for $20 an hour for the rest of my entire life. That's absolutely what my entire goal is. It's like, you say when you hire me, you want me to be goal driven, you want me to be passionate, you want me to be this and this and this and this. It's like, I'm not going to be that at a 9 to 5. I'm going to be that for my career and for something else I'm passionate about.
There wasn't a day that I left work feeling I didn't do enough.
Oh, yeah.
Like, I felt like I had so much more left to do.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like letting somebody down. Like,
Yeah.
I don't want to feel like that anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So you're still modeling now, right?
Yeah.
Okay. So with the modeling life, I know that can definitely be a very petrifying career. That can definitely be, it has goods, it has bads. I think it's also one of the most romanticized type of things, and people look at models and they're so jealous of their mindsets, or they're so jealous of their bodies and stuff. And I can only imagine, especially after getting out of a relationship like the one that you were in, to where it constantly made you feel a certain way about yourself, that being in a career like modeling is one of the last things that you would expect someone coming out of a situation like that to be going into.
Yeah.
What kind of battles do you think that you face the most in your modeling career still right now?
I don't think I really face battles today in modeling, or I just feel like it took competing.
Yeah.
It took competing to get there, because you're on the stage in this little blinged out bikini. There's like not much there at all, right? You got to be very comfortable with your body.
Right.
So through that process and that physical transformation, I became very comfortable with my body and comfortable in my own skin.
Were you always that way, or was it because of this workout regimen and this new lifestyle that you gained that?
I gained it through that, for sure.
When you were in the middle of working out and stuff, was that the end goal the entire time, to gain the confidence to be able to be in a bikini in front of a lot of people, or were you just doing it for health reasons and stuff?
No, there was a goal. There was a goal to get on stage. You have a 12 to 16 week prep. And that means that you're eating very strict. There's no alcohol. There's no sugars. There's no, it is rice, chicken, green beans. You are eating very healthy. Water to drink, because you always need water. You're trying to get a gallon a day.
Yeah.
Which I struggled with.
Yeah.
But anyway. But yeah, so I think it's just like seeing your body, the physical change was the icing on the cake. The true reward was the mental strength I was gaining.
So where did, I guess, the mental power to even sign up for a competition like this come from? Because it sounds like you didn't even start the whole workout thing until you entered the competition, and that's what kind of forced you into the workout thing. So I'm curious of where, because I can imagine at this point you're kind of broken down and beaten down from this previous relationship and all that kind of stuff, which I know that you said you started doing this after you married the second husband, which I can imagine probably built your self-esteem back up a little bit. was it kind of him that kind of pushed you like, Lori, you should enter this competition? Or was it like, you know what? I'm in a spot now to where I'm comfortable with myself and I want to put a challenge there and enter this kind of competition?
So actually this is I just went into the gym with my husband because he was gonna do a show, and
Oh, he's competitive.
he was gonna do
Oh,
a show
okay.
too. And so I know him, and he does a lot of research before he finds like a trainer or a
Right.
doctor or anything. So I knew that he probably found the best, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so I walk in with him, and I just loved the vibe of the gym. And I had worked out before. Like I said, I was an athlete. I was a college athlete. I played softball, volleyball, golf all through high school. I'm no stranger to a gym, but I've never taken it to the level of competing.
Right.
So I was just like, I think I'm going to do this too, because I said that because I was a mom, right? And now my body is like a soft mom bod. And not that there's anything wrong with that, but for me, I just felt like I want to feel sexy again.
Yeah.
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 So that's really where it started.
Okay. And at what point did the want for acting and stuff come in? Because I know that modeling is very different than acting.
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of different things, and I can imagine that with acting, especially with a lot of the stuff that you dealt with beforehand,
Yeah.
there's always that kind of worry that maybe you have to play a part that relates back to that. And I know even at like the conference that we were at, they were saying of how you almost like revisit trauma sometimes in certain ways. Was that ever like a thing that crossed your mind about possibly getting into this acting world?
Well, it's actually interesting because this weekend at the Southwest Actors Conference,
Mm-hmm.
when we had to do the crying on cue, because of everything I've been through, I can get there. Like,
Really?
yeah, I can get there pretty easily, and I think that will help.
I was the opposite.
Mm-hmm.
I've been through abuse and stuff, and I've been through a lot of shit, but I don't know if it's because of the male factor and the stupid like kind of, I guess, mentality put towards men that men aren't allowed to show emotions. Like,
Yeah.
I was raised by a single mom, but
Yeah.
at the same time, my brother was also a big influence, and he was kind of influenced by his father and other male influences that men do not show emotion. And so, and I wanted his approval. I wanted,
Yeah.
like, he was like the older guy for me. And so between that and then taking care of my mother for most of my teenagehood and stuff, I kind of had to build that man of the house mentality
Yeah.
and learn how to man up and like break
Okay.
down on your own time. Like, don't do that. And which is one of the weirdest things I got into acting because of that. But
Yeah.
like when we were trying to do that crayon cue thing,
Mm-hmm.
I couldn't do it. I
You
could not
couldn't.
cry. There was a mental block that was there the entire time. That's just like my body is like, the fuck you think you're doing, bro? No, like we're no. There's no waterworks happening right now. I don't think so. And like I'm like, no, it's okay. Like I'm around people that
Yeah.
aren't gonna be judging me. But it's like,
Yeah.
I think it was a mixture of that and then also being in front of so many people that I don't know. And the
Yeah.
last thing I want to like, I'm okay with being vulnerable, especially like in a one-on-one setting. But when there's a lot of other people around that I don't know, my walls are made of steel and 10 feet tall.
Yeah.
There's nothing penetrating that until I let them down.
That makes sense.
And so, especially like when I'm doing that in front of somebody, that's honestly like one of the things about acting is it puts me in that challenge. Like I've done a couple scenes and done a couple roles to where I did have to like kind of crayon cue. And I noticed like during it, like that I think is my kryptonite. I cannot do. I can portray someone who is very passionate. I can portray someone who is very like kind of fearing or whatever, like yelling and like those kinds like drama roles. But when it comes to waterworks, I'm dry as the Sahara.
Yeah.
I can't do that.
Well, in all fairness, right? Like I did get pulled up on the stage during the conference, and there was, I mean, an absolute scene that required water. I mean, if I was talking about my daughter dying, I would absolutely be crying.
Yeah.
But when I'm holding a mic and there's like a room full of people out there, I just wanted to get off that stage, to be honest.
I'm so happy I didn't get pulled up.
Wanted to say the words.
Yeah.
And I know like in acting, there's so much more than just memorizing the lines. There's so much more. There's the moment before and the moment after.
Right.
And there's so much in between. But I was just like, can I get off the stage?
Yeah.
So, yeah, I have room for improvement there.
I know
in
that
those situations, but I'm actually very happy I did it too, because I keep putting myself in those situations to grow, like forced growing, you know?
Yeah, that's the thing about those comfort zones is like, it's best to get out of them because that's where the growth happens, but you're getting out of that comfort zone, so immediately your body's like, whoa, whoa, whoa.
Yes.
No.
My body did not want to be there.
Yeah, exactly. So when we're doing that kind of stuff, I'm like, oh, this is not happening right now.
Yeah.
But yeah, it was a fantastic conference.
It was
and
awesome.
I just
Shout out to Bella.
Yeah,
that's
I know.
amazing.
Yeah, Bella Higgs, you threw an amazing conference, and thank you for having all of us.
Oh my goodness. Yes.
Lori, what are you most passionate about? What brings you happiness?
What brings me happiness? Okay, so you were asking about acting, like how transition from modeling and acting and how it can be difficult,
I'm
right?
sorry, yeah.
So I just wanted to touch on that because it's not like this is something that I've never done. This is like, it goes back to high school. After high school, I went to this modeling and acting school.
Okay.
And I learned improv, and I learned runway, and I learned, all of the things. And after that, I was in a couple of college plays. And then it's always been in me. Like I went out to LA. I mean, I was still probably 21 or something, and auditioned for MTV's Dismissed. There was a room. This is when everyone's in the room, right?
Yeah.
I had no idea, but like this room is full of people. There was a podium, and I got up, and like you just had to say, like, tell a little bit about yourself and whatever. The next day, I get that they're choosing me.
Wow.
Choosing me. The next day, I have a limo coming to pick me up.
Shit.
It was crazy. Like one audition. And what are the odds? Like now,
Yeah.
knowing how often we audition and then booking, it was one audition.
Like
so
one out of
there's
one.
something there. There's something there. I keep, I keep revisiting or finding my way back, and it's in my heart. So anyway, it took being knocked down and built back up by my husband to even be able to say the words that I act anymore.
Wow.
Like that, I felt like such an imposter when I said that at first. Like I said, I model. I got comfortable with saying I model. And then now I say actress first, because I want that so much. Like I love it. I love it so much.
So you were on this show, Dismissed.
Mm-hmm.
What happened after that? Because, I mean, I don't even know, honestly, what Dismissed was.
Dismissed is where it's a reality TV show, and there's like either a guy and two girls, and they date them both, and then they dismiss one, or a girl and two guys, and I was the girl with two guys.
What was that like?
Very interesting, because I got a dose of reality TV, because this one I was like, oh no, I'm sorry, I don't kiss on the first date. And they're like, cut. we think he deserves a kiss. So I ended up kissing them both.
Oh my gosh.
They like make,
Yeah.
that's what they do. They create what they want to see.
Yeah.
So,
So your first dose of acting was this reality TV show,
for MTV.
and I'm guessing that nothing ended up happening with either of those guys.
No,
Like,
I
it was
think
just
they
like-
were acting.
Oh, really?
I really
Okay, so
do.
afterward, it's not like, oh,
No.
where's Laura Young today? Is she
No.
with this guy from this reality show type of thing?
No. I went back to Arizona. They went to LA.
How long were you
Stayed
on the
there.
show?
Oh, it was just that one episode.
Oh, it was
So
one episode.
Yeah, one episode.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah.
And you still wanted to keep going after that?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, but I didn't really, because then I met my first husband, like pretty recent, or let's see, right after that. I mean, I pretty much met him within a year.
Oh, wow.
So I didn't do anything with it because then I was wrapped up in.
I'm surprised that didn't take the turn of you possibly going to LA and trying to chase a little bit more of this acting career. Like, you came back to Arizona and did all this other
Yeah.
stuff. Like,
I was modeling out there and everything too. Like
What-
I did photo shoots.
what do you think stopped you from like chasing a further career from there? Because that would have been like a big milestone already. Like, a good thing on your resume,
Oh, I
probably
know.
good footage. You would have probably been able to get some sort of agent out of that.
Yeah.
Like, that seemed like it would have been a good like push in the direction of acting, I guess now.
Well, I was playing college softball, so I needed to finish out the season because that was like in the middle of the season.
Yeah.
And that had my whole heart at that time too. Like I loved softball and I loved my team and everything like that. So I was gonna finish that out and then see what happened, but I met my husband in that time.
Did you go back to school and like have all of your friends like, oh my god, I saw you on that show, and like have kind of that almost fame type of feeling when you got back to
People
Arizona?
told me they saw me. I was so embarrassed. I was
Really?
like, please don't. No. But yeah, it was a good experience. I just am floored like how quickly that happened. Like
Yeah.
I was in a room full of people. They could have picked anyone and they picked me.
I just want to say your luck
I know.
with contests is insane. Like you won that contest.
I know.
You got casted in that. You won the James
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
contest. You won the VIP for the
Yeah.
like. You need to buy a lottery ticket after this, or like a couple of them, and like see like your
I
luck. With that.
know. It's so crazy. It's almost like I manifest things though.
Yeah,
I really do believe in that. Like you just focus on those things and it's almost like I don't know, it's manifesting or God like telling
Yeah.
me I'm on the right path. I don't know, but it's beautiful.
yeah,
Yeah, and nothing I do, like I am just so thankful. I have such a grateful heart for every single person that helps me out. They are never forgotten. They are like, I mean, I just keep a list, and
Right.
I just feel like it just keeps growing. And I mean, like, shout out to Artie Cook, who was my competition prep coach. He was just amazing. Pro Physiques, if you ever go there. James, I mean, the most amazing photographer. Go to Get Published Live. Contact me. I have a gift for anyone who wants to go to Get Published Live. And then there's like Cynthia Saucy from Fabulous Arizona taking a chance on me in 12 issues or articles that I was able to write for you. Like, I mean, it goes on and on.
yeah,
People taking a chance on me. And that chance, then I just run with it.
yeah.
Like, give me a bone and I will run. So that's just kind of how my life has been. But I'm very grateful for every single person that just like, I'm so thankful for Bella. I mean, that VIP ticket. I don't know. Just so grateful.
That's
So,
awesome.
Yeah.
So kind of going back to that other question
Mhm.
about happiness and just what you're most passionate about and what truly brings you the biggest source of happiness.
Well, right now I feel like I have the best agent in the world. Angie with Signature Model and Talent, another person who believed in me before I even believed in myself. So I'm very happy right now because I'm able to get those emails. Like, these are things I only dreamed of.
Yeah.
And now this is my reality.
Yeah.
Checking availability, callbacks, auditions, like all of it. Like, I am just so thankful for it all. So that, and then the fact that I am able to be present with my family.
That's
Like,
awesome.
I'm able to be at my daughter's field trips, and I'm able to pick her up and take her to school and make her lunch and help her with homework and be mom because I missed out.
Yeah.
I didn't get that. So that's happiness, is I get to be at her ballet and her golf and just there.
Yeah.
All I want is a front row seat at her life because I missed out. And it's a dual-edged sword too, because it's like my son didn't get this,
Yeah.
and I wish I could have given it to him. But I couldn't go on and live my life because I tried to, and I dated someone, and he was trying to go to school to be a police officer at the time, and he accused him of sexually molesting Landon.
Landon's father accused, and I'm assuming it didn't happen?
No, but it broke us up because I couldn't continue to even have a shadow of doubt, or like I just couldn't continue it. I didn't know what else he was capable of or gonna do. So I tried. I was in love with him too.
Wow.
He was the first person that like Landon like felt like a family. And I don't think my ex was capable of that.
So
Like having
what made you guys break up then? Was it kind of possibly believing
No,
it,
I didn't believe it at all.
Okay.
I just didn't know what he was capable of, and I just was like, I can't do this.
Gotcha. So you didn't believe it actually happened, but you also didn't know him well enough to know all he was completely capable of doing?
I was not sure what my ex was capable of doing.
Him.
To him.
Okay.
Like,
Gotcha.
to keep going.
Gotcha.
To
So you
put
weren't worried
him-
about the boyfriend, you were worried about what the ex
Yes.
was capable of doing, possibly to ruin her life
Yes.
further, or to like how far he's willing to pursue this accusation.
Yeah.
Wow. That must have been a big like
It showed what he was capable of,
yeah.
and like what lengths he was willing to.
Does
Go-
Landon know about this?
No,
No.
I don't think so.
Is this something that you think you would ever tell him?
I don't know.
Just in case he somehow listens to the podcast, should I edit it?
Oh no, it's fine. It's okay.
I don't know who all listens.
It's okay. It was a really long time ago, and he was probably like 3.
Yeah.
Like, but I just wanted to like that's the truth. That's what happened. And so I just didn't, to me, it was just like, okay, you are able to say whatever. And I had lawyers and they would be like, he lies with ease. I went through 6 lawyers. He lies with ease. He's a master, like just all this stuff.
Yeah, con man type of thing.
And I was like, okay, I just can't. So I didn't know what else to do besides separate our lives.
It's so frustrating when that kind of stuff happens too, because I still remember the moment that my father found out who my mom was with. Obviously, you don't typically do background checks and stuff of the person that you're dating. You kind of take their word for it. But my mom was with one. I think he was a registered sex offender. I'm not sure, but he did have a conviction of child predatory stuff. And I still remember clear as day that my dad found out, because my mom and dad had split custody of me. And I was with my dad, and my dad has a history of mental health illness, and it was just the most radical day ever with, like, you need to go back to, like, I need to have someone pick you up. Like, he was freaking out, which I completely understand. If I was married to someone, divorced, but had a child with them, and then they were with somebody that had that kind of rap sheet, I would be, like, flipping the world upside down to do something. Like, I couldn't imagine how hopeless my father felt with that kind of stuff. And ironically, that's not even the man who did shit to me either. That was just, there's a lot of different men and stuff. Like, my mom has been married to many different men. I had a lot of stepdads and stuff going in and out, which I know it's kind of weird being, like, this vulnerable on a podcast, but it's also, I was telling someone earlier, like, I'm not afraid to be vulnerable for the fact of everyone has a story that they're going through, and us being this kind of vulnerable, and, like, especially you telling a story that you told, the amount of people that could potentially reach and help with other especially females in these kinds of situations, seeing the possible light at the end of the tunnel that you're in. Like, because I know in that moment, it feels like an inescapable type of thing. It feels like the entire world is paused around that time. And obviously now we look back and it feels like a blink of an eye in some instances, but it's still like we remember what it's like to be in those positions. And I don't know, I feel like it does need to be voiced and stuff a little bit more, because it's not voiced enough with having everything that does happen to a lot of people. But I mean, especially, like, there wasn't even with my, I even hate saying molestation, because it wasn't the way that people think it was.
I'm sorry.
It's still, like, for the longest time, my reaction was, the second I see this man, first thing I'm doing is slitting his throat. The first thing I'm doing is doing this because of everything. And it took a lot of therapy to be able to kind of confront these emotions and be like, look, you lived through this, now it's time to help others and stuff. It's time to let go of this anger of what happened in the past. Especially, like, it's the most frustrating when there's no repercussions that person has faced. Like, there's only, like, a handful of people that even know about it. And there was no law enforcement involved. There was no anything involved with anything that happened. It was kind of just shoved under the table and stuff. And but yeah, we can take that in one instance. But for me, I kind of took that as, like, I went through something and I know what it's like to go through something like that without going to police and be like, hey, this older man did this kind of shit to me. And I don't know, I just feel like there's different voices that need to be kind of voiced in that kind of shit. And when you're saying something like that, with, like, how, like, an accusation like that is incredibly serious, because that can literally ruin someone's life.
But he did go to court, and he did fight, like, he did represent himself, and he won. So that's great. But I
know that there's instances to where an accusation like that, I mean, with
But if he would say something like that about my husband,
Yeah.
who was at the time carrying a gun and badge, he would lose his
Yeah.
gun and badge.
Yeah,
Like
he-
it would be even an accusation.
It'd be detrimental to his career.
Yes.
Completely.
So I'm in love with him, and I could jeopardize his.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which it's so sad, that kind of stuff that can happen, because it's like, I know that obviously there might not be evidence and stuff that you can get, and there's so much stuff.
Mm-hmm.
If it is happening, you have to be very precautious about certain stuff, and especially if it's a law enforcement officer, like, yeah, of course you don't want someone on the force that's doing this
Yeah.
kind of shit. But then if it is an instance like this to where it's just coming from a jealous person that's just like, oh, she's not with me, if I can't have her, nobody can type of mentality,
Mm-hmm.
just the damage and shit that could, like, I've seen firsthand the type of damage those kinds of things can do.
Yeah.
From perspective of seeing people that have done that kind of shit and seeing people that didn't, and talking to both parties and realizing that the person that's like accusing them is just doing it because they're like, oh, I just want to see their life ruined. They didn't do anything.
Oh yeah.
I'm just
he's-
doing it because I want to see their life ruined.
Absolutely. And so co-parenting with a narcissist
Yeah.
is like hell on earth. It is hell on earth. Every time I asked to do anything, it was like it was turned down, but not even offered like a little extra time. It'd just be like, no. Even when I go over today, now that he's 17, but it's like I'm not invited in.
Yeah.
I'm standing at the door. If it's not 6:30, I don't get him. I can't come a minute earlier. And they'll hand me like his inhaler, like allergy medicine, shut the door, and I'm standing there. And then
I remember
bring him
that
out.
shit.
And they bring him out. He's 17 years old.
I remember
That's
that
treated
shit.
like a boy. Like that's like a kid.
Yeah.
And
Obviously-
it's never changed from his
Yeah.
whole life. Like that's just how they've treated. That's how drop-offs go.
Obviously, it didn't happen
And
to me
pickups.
after teenagehood and stuff because I was living with my mom. But I remember like being in his position at a younger age with like having a mom that despised my father, and having those instances to where like I would be in my room packing something up and I would just see my dad out my window just standing there, and I'm like, just fucking let him in. Like, it's cold outside, it's snowing outside, and I'm
Oh,
like,
yeah.
here, like I would like shove my mom out and be like, Dad, come in. He's like, no, it's fine. I'm like,
Oh,
I'm
no.
not ready. And like it's like that kind of stressful shit is just like
Yeah.
it's you don't understand the psychology that you're putting into his brain too.
Well,
of
I
like,
guess like that's interesting to hear from your perspective.
Yeah.
Because I never think of what Landon thinks when I'm outside.
yeah,
So
like
you were
it's,
thinking like having compassion for your dad.
Oh, absolutely. I would have like this
Like why in the
compassion,
heck
like
didn't you just let him in? It's
yeah,
cold.
yeah, like I'm about to visit with him and stuff, and
Yeah.
obviously, if he was a bad guy, I wouldn't be able to visit him now.
Yeah.
If he was really this horrible guy that you say he is, why the fuck would I be able to be with him right now? Especially
Okay.
with an unsupervised visit.
Yes.
And so, like, it caused so much confusion to me of like,
Wow.
So I remember before I knew about all the bullshit between my mom and my dad.
Mm-hmm.
Do you know the whole thing, like you pick up a dandelion, you blow off the things
Yeah.
and make a wish?
Yeah.
I would literally, at the place that I lived at with my dad, I would go in the backyard, pick those, and make a wish and wish that my parents got back together,
Aw.
because I never had that growing up. All my friends were
Yeah.
like, oh yeah, Christmas, blah, blah, blah,
Yeah.
this. And I was always confused about why do I have 2 Christmases, and like everyone's jealous of me, but I don't get to like wake up with both parents and stuff.
Oh yeah.
And it wasn't until later that I got to like learn about why they broke up, and I'm like, oh, thank God they weren't together. But at those times, it's one of, so I get very iffy on the whole thing with parenting, with like there's no love between your mother and I, but we're together for you. That, and then separating. I've seen products of both.
Mm-hmm.
I have the mentality of like, if you have fake love with your partner just because of like you want your kid to have two parents,
Mhm.
you're teaching them fake love. You're teaching them it's okay to be with someone that you don't like or that you don't love.
Right.
But on the contrary, like obviously there's also those other types of things. It's like unless you can co-parent and you can have a mutual respect for each other.
I've seen it.
Like, if it's-
really nice. Like
if it's the other way to where
co-parenting.
it's like one parent hates the other, it's such a damaging thing because then like you get confused on how to view the parent.
Yeah.
I was like for the longest time, I almost had a fear of going to my dad's house.
Ooh.
I didn't want to. I was more free. I felt safer at my mom's house. I felt this other type of way than when I went to my dad's house because he parented in a different style that didn't cater to what I wanted, but more structure. I was more nervous to go to his house. I dreaded the weekends or the weeks that I went to his house. And
I
every
honestly
time,
bet Landon does too.
but it's also, and it wasn't until later on that I'm like, oh, it was my dad's house that was technically healthier. And
He will know that.
yeah, and I say this to you in the situation now, like, obviously I can't speak for Landon. I don't know anything about him or how his brain works. But later on, I wanted to pursue my own type of knowledge of my parents. I wanted to understand.
At what age?
I think it was, I want to say somewhere between 22 and 24.
Okay.
Like it was early 20s. That was also just because I had to grow up very quickly. I've been on my own, taking care of my mom since I was 12. I've basically aged 6 years in advance. So everything that 16-year-olds are doing, I was doing at 10, 11, 12. Everything that 21 plus year olds were doing, I was doing at 16, 17, 18, 19. Everything like, even now, I live the life that like 30, 40-year-olds live.
Yeah.
So that was the way I grew up. Obviously, different kids age in different ways. But for me, I also, I never wanted to have the doubt that I never gave this parent a chance. Because I've seen those movies and stuff where it's like, just give that parent a chance. They love you. They will do anything for you. And seeing other friends that had relationships with their parents, even if they were separated, I would see the passion that the parent has for them. But then I'd see the way that my friend would talk to their parent, and I'd be like, dude, go back in there and fucking apologize to your mom. How fucking dare you talk to her like that? She loves you. They're caring for you. I would kill to have a fucking parent like that. And like I grew up with the envy of like, because my childhood was unhealthy.
Yeah.
Whenever like I'd had friends that would be like, I fucking hate my mom. Like she's not letting me. I'm like, shut your fucking mouth right now.
Right.
I'm
Like,
like,
you
I
don't
would
know.
kill to have that. And so eventually, like, I do have very iffy relationships with my parents now, but it's at a healthy point where I know I've given them a chance to be a parent.
That's good.
I know that I've given them a chance to sit down and be like, hey, why weren't you there? What happened? I want to know your side of the story. I've heard mom's side of the story. I want to hear your side of the story. I've kind of learned to be that person that kind of overheard both sides of the coin to be like, I know that manipulation can happen. I'm a product of brainwash. But I want to erase that brainwashing. I want to know. I literally sat down with my dad in the car. I sat down with him for a while afterward, and I'm like, okay, here's what I heard from mom. And I got to see his reaction to everything. I got to hear everything with
Yeah.
like,
I have
here's
no
what she
idea
did.
what he knows. Like,
Exactly.
I have no idea.
You don't know what he knows,
Because
what
he's
he
a
said.
closed.
Yeah.
He's so closed off.
And maybe you offering that to him could offer some solace. Obviously, this might not be the age right now when he's more curious. I would definitely wait until he's probably more curious about growing the relationship with you, which I will say it probably will happen. You don't seem like the kind of person that strikes me as someone that's highly toxic. And so we gravitate, especially you being his mom. We always gravitate towards the mother, unless the mother's absent for whatever reason and has proven not to be the present parent. But I will bet in the future he will gravitate and be like, Mom, why did you leave?
Well, I think it's really hard for him to be around Addison.
Really?
Because she says, why doesn't brother love me?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
Which, it's going to be hard now, but it's all within due time. It's
Because everything is like Addison. We are
Yeah.
a family, like what she knows.
Yeah. Those kinds of situations
It's
are so sticky.
hard because it's like it's like salt in the wound. Like, you know what?
Yeah.
Well, you don't know, but when you're pregnant or like you're trying to get pregnant and you can't, and then you're happy for others who are pregnant, but it's not your first go-to to go be around that.
Yeah.
Right?
Well, I mean, you're trying for something so hard and someone else has what you want.
So it's awful. It's like,
it's a very sticky situation and those
Yeah.
kinds of things. And it's, you want to explain to her what's going on and why the whole situation, the fact that it's like, brother loves you. It's,
yeah, I do say that. I'm like, he's just older. He's
Yeah.
older and he's with his friends, but
that's the other thing that kind of does
Yeah.
suck, especially with having siblings in large age ranges, because
yeah,
unless they do have kind of a parenting personality to be able to
Yeah.
be like, hey, I gotta take care of my little sister,
he does not.
which he wasn't raised with his little
No.
sister though. Like my brother, that's what happened with me and my brother. My brother never had the parenting type of personality to be able to like, hey, I'm gonna take care of Alex.
Yeah.
It was always him wanting to be the rebel, his own thing, being a teenager and hanging out with his buddies and stuff and kind of doing that. And so it's like, me and him even have a rocky personality or rocky relationship to this day.
Yeah.
We're finally reconciling because we're both adults and we're both like, hey, we can let go of our lives growing up. We can, like, we've both made like complete 180s, which by the grace of God, I don't know how it happened, but it's also just something that you have to let time
Did
do
you
its
do
thing.
well in school?
I did well in school up to, I think, the beginning of high school. So when my life was a little bit more stable, I was 50-50 custody, both parents working, neither one of them had the mental illness really kicking in yet. Yeah, I almost skipped a grade a couple times because I was excelling hardcore. But then after I turned 12 years old, my father went to a mental institution. He has bipolar disorder, and it was a lot of people have misconceptions about bipolar disorder. They think it's like immediate, like
I
instant
honestly
changes.
think so did my
But
ex,
it's
but I don't.
big waves. So for 10 years, my dad was fine. But then I'd know where he had a shift, which that's what bipolar actually is. It's not like instant, like you wake up one day, you're happy, 2 minutes later,
But
you're
isn't
sad.
it like black or white? There's no gray. It's like they either love you or hate you, kind of.
Yeah, it's the extremes. So
yeah.
it's like, it's what mania kind of comes from. That's why my dad is considered manic. And a lot
And
of
then
people have
there's love
different...
bombing,
yeah.
and there's,
Like
abuse.
I have friends that have it and stuff, so I've gotten to learn a lot about the bipolar disorder.
Yeah.
And there is so many misconceptions. A lot of people like, I think I'm bipolar. I have one day that I'm happy, another day I'm sad. And it's like, it's not just about like, oh, I'm happy and sad. That's just because we live in a fucked up world. And chances are, it's just society.
Yeah.
Having true bipolar is completely different. But that's when, like, after I turned about 10 years old is when his bipolar really started kicking in a little bit. And he didn't even have to take medication for the first 10 years of my life. It was literally not until that big dip happened and certain triggers. I don't know if there was a trigger, but then he went to the mental institution, and then my mom, for some reason, I don't know if it was because she no longer shared custody with my dad. It was her primarily, but that's when her disability started kicking in with fibromyalgia, and then one thing led to another, and there was a bunch of different shit. I won't name everything that she has because for her own confidentiality, but there's a lot of shit like that happening. And then I think it was towards that time, that's when the big shift in my life started happening. She got with unfavorable men, and I stopped having good male influences in my life. I started kind of living more independently. That's when that event, like I said earlier, happened, and I was kind of considered more of an adult rather than just a child. And at that point, I kind of learned to rebel a little bit and stopped giving a shit about school. I was working since I was literally 12 years old. That's when I got my first job.
Yeah.
And so in my head, I almost had this mentality of, I'm working already. Why the fuck do I need school? I already have a job.
Oh, okay.
So between that and then just having the extremely toxic relationship with my mother, it was crazy too, because in my high school year, or my senior year, so in high school, I spent 1 year at one school, and then a year or half a year there, and then I transferred to a different school. Did absolutely terrible at that new school.
Okay.
I think I failed nearly every single class I took. Went back, I had to make up a bunch of classes to get my credits back up, and then senior year, I had close to probably 40 or 50 absences due to skipping school, and like I had another friend that had a very toxic relationship with his parents. So me and him were both skipping together. He'd stay at my house. I'd come live with him. I would literally start living with other friends and stuff just because I didn't want to be home anymore.
Yeah.
And so that kind of stuff happened. And then I also wasn't pushed in the right ways to do it. It was more of just like, well, you want your high school diploma, right? Cool. You're going to graduate. It was more of like an ultimatum type of thing. Like, well, you're going to fuck yourself over if you don't get your diploma.
Okay.
So during high school, I very much
What would have
struggled.
worked?
I think, unfortunately, not unfortunately, but having the correct structure, having the support, I think being able to have extracurriculars as well. I didn't do any extracurriculars outside of school. So, like, I wanted to do sports, but I never did. I feel like that would have definitely helped because that would have kept me around. I'm all for getting jobs and stuff, but I also feel like there needs to be learned balance and kind of forcing a structure upon your child.
Yeah.
I was able to completely create my own structure, and I was too young to do it. I will admit fully, I was too young to completely create my own structure. So I'd wake up, I would go home, take a nap, wake up again, eat dinner at 10 or 11, play video games till 3 or 4 in the morning, and then wake up at 7, and that was my daily routine. That is so unhealthy for a developing child.
Right.
That is not a healthy type of lifestyle. And I know that a lot of people or a lot of kids don't like having that kind of structure and stuff. Like, I want to be free. I want to, like, I'm so,
He likes video games.
Oh, I mean, there's nothing wrong with video games.
Yeah.
But it's those things to where it's like, when you don't have that parent that can teach you how to have, like, I wish I learned more discipline when I was younger. Because I face the unfortunate aftermath of not having that discipline now. And while obviously you don't like the discipline in that moment, it teaches you later on. It's why the military is so important for some people, because that forces that kind of discipline. Right now, discipline is probably one of the biggest things I struggle with. Being able to self-discipline and create a structure and create a schedule and stuff. And then probably having genuine interest in my life, but not pushing stuff. I don't want you pushing me to go to college if I don't want to, but I want you interested in what I'm doing. I want you interested in, like, hey, like, I want to support whatever. If you're into sports, I'll be at every single game. I will help do this. If you're in, like, being, like, those kinds of things are the things that you notice.
Yeah, I tried to get him in sports, but he would never be on the same page. So, I mean, I was out there with a ball and glove and everything like that, but...
Well, sometimes you have to experiment with what they like. Sometimes baseball or something is not. Maybe it's dance.
No, yeah, whatever.
Maybe it's art.
Whatever, but he doesn't.
Yeah, that was one thing that
have,
I pride my parents on, is the fact that they never forced me into something I didn't want to do. They made me try some stuff to see what I did like, but they never were like, you're going to play football. Or you're going to play soccer whether you like it or not. If I wanted to do dance, I could have done dance. If I wanted to do this, I could have done that. So having that kind of support, I think, did help a lot. But I don't know. It's definitely a tricky thing, and you also can't hover too much. You do have to let them learn from life themselves. I think that's one of the reasons why I am where I am today, is because I had to learn the hard way on everything. I didn't have a parent to hover over me and completely hold my hand through every little thing. I had to learn the stove was hot by touching it. And for me, that's how I learned. It wasn't because, like, oh, my mom said the stove is hot, so I'm not going to touch it. So I think that kind of exposure is also extremely healthy. Not like, hey, I can't go to this party, I can't go to that, or...
Oh, I don't... He asked me to go... Like, I want him to go with his friends. I want him to be a kid and a teenager. And I was the same way. I withdrew from my parents at this age. It's just... I feel it so much because I have such little time.
Make sure they don't feel judged. That was a big thing. Like, I was able to be completely open and honest with my parents about, like, if I had weed. Like, yeah, I had weed. And, like, it was never, like, shunning me for it, because it's like, you have to let them go through experiences. you can tell them like, hey, I don't give a shit if you smoke some weed. Just
Yeah.
make sure that, like, I would prefer you do it here so I can watch you and make sure that everything's good. Or I know you're gonna go to the party whether you like or whether I want you to or not. So make sure either you don't drink, or you call me, or you get an
stay
Uber.
over.
Yeah, or you stay
Yep.
over. Like, make sure because it's like, and give them an ultimatum of like, yeah, if you get arrested and you go to jail, I'm not bailing you out. You have to learn by yourself. But I'm not gonna flip out and ground you for a week if you go to this party.
And I don't know if he's doing any of that
Yeah.
right yet. But at 17, like,
Yeah. But obviously, there's also no one size fits all type of thing.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna say like this
Yeah.
is what's good because
right.
everybody is different.
Yeah.
I don't know what goes on in Landon's head or what his psychology says or anything like that. So it's very
Yeah.
much a different thing. I've never had someone ask me that kind of stuff. Okay. I know we're already like going way over time, but we have hit some really.
Sorry.
No. Don't apologize. It's amazing. I have like one question that I try to ask everyone because of how different answers are.
Yeah.
What to you is success, and what needs to happen for you to achieve it? Or at what point can you officially say that you've reached success?
That's tough. Because success does look different for a lot of different people.
I know that your notes say something about freedom and such like that.
Yeah, to be present with my family. This is what I want because of my past, because I've missed out on so much. I mean, that takes precedence.
Right.
But I'm just so thankful that when I am working, I'm doing what I love. Like for me, like I've never felt happier than in the last like year and a half of just living life, because making money doing what I love and being with my family. And when I go into even work at the eye doctor, like there's nothing hanging over my head when I leave. When I'm done with my last patient, I cover those machines and I'm like, bye. And there's nothing like hanging over my head for the next day.
Right.
It feels good.
Yeah.
It feels very free and good. So I'd say I'm successful.
That's awesome. I like that.
Yeah.
Well, Lori, thank you for coming on and especially being so vulnerable. I know a lot of this stuff that we talked about can hit some very soft points for people, but it's also very valuable, and I do believe that it could definitely change someone's life. Whether we see it or not, us being so vulnerable and being willing to talk about this can be freeing for more people than we even acknowledge. So I thank you for opening up and talking about a lot of this stuff. It definitely means a lot to me. It means a lot to the viewers. It means a lot to everybody. Is there anything specific that we didn't mention, or questions that you have, or anything that you want to give a shout out to?
No, I don't think so.
Okay. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, with all that being said, I'll let you do your little thing, and then we will call that a wrap.
Okay. Hi, my name is Lori Young, and I've been unmasked.
Heck yeah!